The NFL's Black Monday. It's not Black Friday after Thanksgiving. It's nothing good like that. This is known for the coaches getting fired. And Black Monday, it's the day after the last day of the regular season. We're already seeing guys on the hot seat. So I wanted to cover it, the guys that have currently been fired yesterday or today, and then the guys that are potentially going to get fired as well. So we'll start here. Kevin Stefanski was fired this morning. The Browns fired him after 6 seasons. And after the most recent season here, the Browns, they certainly had a little bit of a disappointing go here, finishing last in their division, 5-12, 3-6 at home, 2-6 away. They had coaching issues. I think Stefanski's had 13 quarterbacks in his 4 seasons start at different points. He was big on the Deshaun Watson piece there a few years ago that was just one of the biggest disasters in maybe the NFL's history, maybe one of the worst trades in NFL history. But he's out, and now the question is, what's the Browns' next steps? Right here you can see Andrew Perry, the general manager who arrived with Stefanski in Cleveland. He's still there. So what do actually the Browns do? Does this really shake things up? I mean, this is like you're flying the plane and you remove the co-pilot or you remove the pilot. There's still pieces there, and the plane, it still might be a bumpy ride. So I don't really know where the Browns are headed. Do they stick with Shedeur? I think he had some good moments. He had some poor ones. The offensive line was really a struggle, and he got sacked an abysmal amount of times this season. So I don't think you put it all on him. And to me, I think Shedeur Sanders can be a franchise quarterback given the right situation. The Browns clearly aren't that. They're going to need to get some help in there and figure it out. Next, Raheem Morris for the Atlanta Falcons. He was fired yesterday after Atlanta finished 8-9 this season. They beat the Saints, which of course, thank goodness they beat the Saints. The Panthers made the playoffs at 8-9. Absolutely disastrous end of the season. Morris was hired last season, and over the course of 2 seasons, he just had 2 disappointing goes. Now, they've got lots of talent here, and Arthur Blank, the Falcons' general manager, he's hired all kinds of guys in the past few years. It seems like the Falcons can never really get the coach right, and it seems like Morris was well-liked, well-respected within the organization, so it looks like, shared a commitment to the values important to this organization. He was well-liked and well-respected, and I think, that's great. It's great to have a good relationship, but I don't think that Morris was really going to take this team maybe to the next level and really where the fans wanted, or goodness gracious, where the fans wanted, or maybe where this team was capable of talent-wise. So who's going there? I have no idea. But Morris is probably an average coach in the NFL. So to really step it up, you're going to have to hit the nail on the head, or you're going to be back in this spot in a couple seasons facing the same kind of problems. Brian Daboll, these are coaches that were fired before, but they still were fired this season, so we may as well talk about them and maybe what the future holds. Brian Daboll was fired in November. Mike Kafka was the interim coach for the Giants, and the Giants fired Daboll after blowing another fourth quarter lead. At this point, they had 2 wins in the season. They didn't have 2 wins. They had 2 wins until the last 2 games of the season. I think they won their last 2, which kind of blows their shot at a super high first round pick. They're still going to be picking top 5, I think, top 7, but I think it's top 5. But still, just a disappointing season overall for this Giants team, where even though Scadaboo went down, even though you had some injuries, Dart was a little bit in and out of the lineup, they finished with 4 wins. And you looked at this team before, okay, maybe they could be a borderline playoff team. This whole division was pretty disappointing. You look all the way through the Eagles, the Super Bowl champs. They're 11-6, but were they really that impressive this season? The Cowboys let you down again. Of course, there were injuries to Lamb, injuries on the defense that really hindered him. Trayvon Diggs went down again on the back end. They struggled with all kinds of stuff, but disappointing for the Giants. They went after Marcus Freeman heavy. I know that was in the rumors. I got texts from all kinds of Giants fans asking about Marcus Freeman and, is he leaving Notre Dame? No, he's not. He was just kind of renegotiating the contract to maybe get a little bit money, squeeze a little bit more out of Notre Dame, and now the Giants are stuck in a little bit of a tough spot. I think this job maybe has the most eyes on it out of any of the ones that are certainly available, and it also should be highly coveted. You get potentially a franchise quarterback in Dart. I'm still not quite there yet, but he has the potential for that. You get a solid defense overall, and I think coaching is really going to be the big ticket to this team. Who's going to get in there? Who's going to actually be able to turn things around? Let's see. The Titans, they had a really disappointing season as well, firing Callahan on October 13th. The interim coach was Mike McCoy. I think this Titans team was the worst team in the AFC. They're right there with the Raiders. So Cam Ward, of course, he got hurt yesterday in the final game of the season. Pretty disappointing, honestly, for the Titans, but they'll have a high pick. They can get somebody that can really make a difference on the defensive side. And honestly, you need to draft some offense too. Of course, the defense has been pretty tough. So it kind of depends who's available, but getting a guy that can rush the passer or getting an offensive weapon. Could they go snag Carnell Tate? Would they take him that high? Tough to say, but Cam Ward could really use some help for this team. So this was in week 6. This was the first firing, and it just seems like the Titans wanted to move on. So they're going to have some work to do there to figure things back out. So there's some more rumors, though. Of course, some of these guys have already been fired. Raheem Morris, of course, Kevin Stefanski, the first 2 dominoes to fall. But it seems like Mike McDaniel, he's been in talks the whole season. They started out absolutely ice cold in Miami, which doesn't really make sense given the weather, but they still started out cold, and McDaniel's turned this team around to 7-9, despite, I think they were 1-5 to start the season, and one of the worst defenses in the NFL at that point, but they had a lot of injuries, and they still won plenty of games. 7-9, they had some big wins towards the back half of the season. They really kind of ran under the radar. I remember they were all over the meme pages, all over the failure chats there at the start of the season, but they kind of got things turned around, and it seems like Mike McDaniel is closer to staying. I think really they need to get a new quarterback in there, and I don't know what that takes. I don't know who you try to go get in free agency. Do they try to go grab a guy like Davis Mills or Malik Willis to come in there and be more of a bridge guy? Do they draft someone? They're going to have a mid-first round pick. Do they go after a Ty Simpson or a Dante Moore? Tough to say, but I think this team, Mike McDaniel, he kind of has turned things around, and although he made the playoffs his first 2 seasons, he hasn't really been back there. I think it's more of a testament to the personnel rather than him as a coach. If he gets fired, somebody's going to have an absolute killer of an offensive coordinator somewhere else. So we'll see about that one. And the Raiders, they hired Pete Carroll last season, but it looks like Carroll is also in big talks to get fired this season. So, of course, the Raiders had 3 wins this season. They drafted Austin Gentry in the first round. A little bit questionable given how historically terrible this offensive line is. But the rumors point to this team being looking for another reset. So they're going to have the number 1 overall pick. They're probably going to choose Fernando Mendoza, get a new quarterback. Geno Smith was a disaster. But do you want to get a new coach in with a new quarterback, with a new scheme? Now might be the time to do it. You don't want to hire a new coach, draft Mendoza, things don't work out. You have to pick up a new coach, and then you're already behind the ball. So this is really the time that this team might be looking to reset overall. And then another coach that I don't see in this article, but that also might be in the talks, is Aaron Glenn for the Jets. This Jets defense, although Glenn, I think, was a defensive guy, I'm pretty sure they didn't record a single interception this season. And just disappointing production on the field for the Jets. They're 3-14 as well. They're picking in the top 5, and they ended the season losing 5 in a row. Made some solid trades to end the season. Of course, they got back multiple first-round picks for Quinnen Williams, first-round picks for Sauce Gardner. What will those turn into? That really depends on the management and the drafting, which we know has been a bit of a struggle over there in New York. But we'll see how these teams rebuild. We'll see what the rest of Black Monday holds out to be. I might be back tomorrow talking about even more coach firings, maybe even some surprising ones. John Harbaugh, He's been in a little bit of talks after that team, the Ravens, lost again on the verge of the playoffs. But, it's fluke play after fluke play, and they don't want to part ways with their franchise quarterback, Lamar Jackson, who's been playing great, by the way. But there's been a lot of injuries in Baltimore. I don't think that's going to happen. So we'll see on that one. But I'll be back with some more Black Monday coverage, or if anything else crazy happens in the NFL, I'll see you then.